Howdy and welcome, Frank here, and we're just franking around. Come with us for another episode where we'll show you stuff, laugh at stuff, drive over stuff, camp with stuff, sometimes we'll cook stuff and just do some fun stuff. So sit down, grab your favourite liquid, relax and chill, and we'll drag you along for the ride, all while sitting in your own comfy chair. Cheers, guys. Yeah, righto. G'day. So it's Frank here from Just Frankin Around, and I finally had the opportunity to meet the great man, and I'm going to introduce him in a moment. But we've had a lot of questions from all our followers around where things began. How did this whole sort of journey begin? So we've got some questions that we're going to pose, and firstly I'll introduce the great man. Frank, how you going?
Yeah, g'day mate. Yeah, good, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was good meeting you, and thank you for having me. I think I usually do interviews for the public, but look, I appreciate you asking, and I sort of thought about it when you first mentioned it the other night, doing a bit of an interview. I thought, don't I? And then I thought, well, you know what, let's do it. See what comes of it. No, mate. It's my pleasure. It's really great to have you here. Let's kind of get stuck into it. First question here. Can you tell us how your interest in camping and this adventuring began?
Well, both mum and dad grew up Eastern Europe, so they're not Australians. And by the way, I don't know whether you noticed, but I'm actually clean today, and I don't have the sort of issues that you have there with your hair and what have you. But yeah, they grew up in sort of rural areas of Eastern Europe in Hungary, and dad was in a sort of like a coal mining area, and mum was from like an agricultural farming kind of area. So they were always kind of outdoorsy people, and they met in South Africa. So they kind of met there. There was quite a decent Hungarian community there, as you might know, and they actually did start when they were young. Dad's about 7 years older than mum, and they I think he was in his early 20s. Mum and her sister and that were in their sort of late teens, and so they go away with the family, and they do trips down to Swaziland and things like that. And like, I'll chuck some photos on it. I'll send them to you. They're in like tents and camping and things. They had a bit of a good time. It was sort of a bit of a history there with that sort of camping. So yeah, it's that's kind of when it happened, like down in, what was it, Swaziland or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So fascinating story and amazing history there. So so then we moved to Australia, and I remember as a kid we were still in South Africa, and we were looking at coming to Australia, right? And we went to see the show, and it's called Northern Safari or something like that.
We're going north on a northern safari.
Something like that. Probably YouTube it. And it was all about more the northern parts of Australia, and so there's these dudes that are travelling around, and they're swatting flies, and they're seeing all sorts of stuff. So I had a bit of an impression about Australia there, but remember I was only like 7.5 years old. So, but then once we came here, we had some friends, also Hungarian friends. They had some kids a little bit younger than my sister and I, and they used to go camping and fishing up at Tallangatta, or Tallangatta, however you want to pronounce it. And so we would actually go and do a little bit of tent camping back there in the day, and bit of fishing, and I remember getting sunburnt and bloody hot and stinking hot and that, and so that was kind of, we did a little bit of that. Mum and dad had some small tents and that, and we didn't do a lot of it, but they did take us traveling. Geez, it's getting hot in here. They did take us traveling down to there we go, Adelaide, Queensland, Tasmania. We did a lot of road trips there, particularly in Dad's old Renault 16, and I remember sitting on the sweaty vinyl seats, and so they did take us around to quite a few places. Yeah. After you moved to Australia, who were the early influences that you followed? Oh, mate, influences! You cannot go past the Leyland brothers. Used to watch that religiously. They were absolutely my favourites, and
credit to them, they really opened up Australia for the viewers. You travel all over the countryside, that sort of stuff. But then also guys like Jack Absalom, Les Hiddens, the bush tucker man. I used to watch those guys religiously, and it was always great seeing how they would be staying in a swag, which was simply a net, a net for mozzies and things like that, up in the Kimberley or up in the Kakadu and places. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed watching those. Right, legends, all of them legends. So let's fast forward a bit. You met Mel, the beautiful Melanie, the beautiful Mrs. Back in the late 1980s. So was she a camper? Was she one of those sort of early influences?
Yeah. So Mel had a bit of a camping history. In fact, her grandfather built his own caravan, and so they used to take the caravan down to Mount Martha, down the estuary there. You used to be able to camp right up the estuary there. It's a lovely place. We still go down there occasionally now. It's got quite good memories and a good connection there.
So she was a bit outdoorsy, with all the sport and what have you.
She's a bit outdoorsy.
And so tell me about your first camping experience, the two of you. I heard there was some interesting shenanigans in the tent, is that right?
Yeah, first camping experience with Mel. So we decided we'd take the tent not too far. I think we were dating, obviously we were dating, but we went up to Lake Eildon and we pitched the tent. I think we only stayed there one night, but we pitched the tent and that was all cool. And there was not an awful lot of romance as such back in those days. She was a young kid. She was 18, 19 years old or so. And I remember waking up early in the morning in this crappy little tent, and there's bloody galahs up on I could see their shadows on the roof of the tent, and like that, and oh my God, and I look over and she's just fast asleep. She could sleep through an earthquake. So that was kind of fun. It was a good memory, but from there we kind of did a few trips, but mainly like staying in cabins or hotels, things like that. Tasmania, we went to South Australia, the Barossa, up to the Flinders Ranges, things like that. But that was just sort of car trips,
And so when did that change to proper camping as such?
Yeah, proper camping. So, in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, we started popping out the kids. And sort of pretty early on, we decided let's have a crack at caravanning, and I think it was in about 2002 or so we actually went and bought our first little caravan, and that was a Jayco Swan. It was probably like a late 70s, early 80s model, classic decor. I think we paid $6,500 for it. I think I paid about $500 to get it serviced, 3 new tyres and brakes checked and all that sort of stuff. And we thought we'll have it for about 3 years. See if the bug bites, then we might replace it. And mate, we had that van for over 6 years. We went to so many different places with it. And I think from memory we sold it for about $6,000, literally 6 years later. So it literally cost us about $1,000 for that 6 years of adventures. And we never went really far. We'd Ballarat, Cape Patterson, Bendigo, places like that, fairly close. And the guys at work used to hang it on me because it's like, oh, you're going camping all the way to Ballarat. It's an hour and 20 minutes from Melbourne. But they were really, really cool days, and the kids would go on the jumping pillows and in the swimming pool. So commercial caravan parks at Cows or wherever. So they were really, really good days. And
so they were kind of easy things, but you sort of launched into it fairly low key, I guess.
And the first time we actually cracked out that new caravan, we actually went down to Phillip Island to I think it's Anchor Bell or something like a caravan park down there, and it was pouring rain, middle of winter in June 2002 or something, and with rain. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I know you don't allow that on your show. Pouring rain, and we ended up pitching it up, and the caravan park owner came over. He's like, you guys are mad. What are you doing coming all the way here from Melbourne? It's terrible weather. And I said, look, this is our first attempt at putting up the caravan. The canvas annex, all the tent poles, the pegs, the ropes, it's our first time, and we didn't want to do it with an audience. And so he said, oh, no worries. Well, good on you. If you need anything, give us a hand. And he gives us a yell, and he said, look, there's a bucket over there. If you need any tent pegs or guy ropes or anything like that, just go and help yourself. Every
end of every season they do a great big cleanup, and they've got buckets and buckets of the stuff. So that was a really cool experience. And thankfully, the van didn't leak. We all survived, and the thing there was we literally were an hour from home. So worst case scenario, if the caravan did leak or whatever, we just pack up, take the car home, and go to bed, and then I'll pick up the van another day.
So were there other people, friends, family who were also that influenced you or inspired you as well along this part of the journey?
Yeah, so later influences. Look, where I worked, there was actually quite a few people where they were into travelling and visiting places around Australia. There was a lady called Dale Walsh, and she, her husband and her bought a Toyota Coaster when her kids, the daughters well, she got two girls, and daughters were little, they were under 10, let's say, and they literally bought this old Toyota Coaster, and they travelled around Australia for 9 months. And I'm sort of, that's a pretty cool idea. And then there's another lady, Margaret Corker. She did this trip, an APT bus tour, where they went to the Kimberley, and she showed me some photos, and they're just extraordinary. I remember showing my dad photos of the bungles that she had a flight, aeroplane flight, because the bus broke down or something or the other, and they had to wait a little bit, so they put him in an aircraft and did a scenic flight. She showed me pictures of Columbaroo and places like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go to these places. There's big old John Kennedy, 6'5" man, and he'd done a lot of bushwalking and hiking and stuff, like particularly around Tasmania, and he was always encouraging me to do stuff. And then my boss there, Ian Cramps, I still catch up with him now, as you know, you're mates with him as well.
Yeah.
And he was sort of into real four-wheel driving, but we never sort of did a lot of that together at that time at all in those early days. And then another chap, Andrew Gillum, he was an old mate of mine from when I used to work back at Unisys, and then we sort of parted company. But I remember seeing photos of him when he left Unisys, and he took his old Nissan, a Ford Maverick, so Nissan Patrol, around West Australia. I remember thinking, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, just tenting with his wife. And he then actually joined me to work at the VCAA in later years. So these guys all had a profound effect, where I thought, we can do some of this sort of stuff, see a lot of Australia like that.
Yeah, right. So you reckon, you said you leased the Prado, but tell me, back in those days, did you even know what low range was? Did you ever use like low range? Did you have any idea, or you liked the look of the big car? Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, we went to the tip.
What? Cape York, the tip?
No, mate, the tip, the refuse, like the transfer station. I had a trailer with rubbish. I'd have to go to the
sorry,
tip.
mate. Sorry, gotcha. So, another question here. So, how long did you have the Prado, and what was next?
So it was a 3-year lease, and at the end of that lease, I ended up actually selling it to a mate of mine, Ted Scale, and at a profit, and he was happy with it. I think the payout was like 16 grand, and the thing was, market value was like 24. Sold it to him for like 19, 20 grand. He was stoked. And then, so from there, we ended up, I leased that was 2004, I think, and I leased a Ford Territory, brand new, and that was just the rear wheel drive. And so that became the tow vehicle for the old Swan. And it was, that served its purpose. It was pretty good. I enjoyed that. It was a good car.
So was that the point when you decided to do a bigger trip, like start planning something a bit more substantial?
Yeah, well, a few years later at the VCAA, the chap I was mentioning, John Kennedy, we were chatting with him about the fact that the kids are growing up and all that sort of stuff, and he was really encouraging me to think about doing a big trip, taking the kids out of school for maybe a couple of months, and he sort of sowed that seed, and it took a little while to germinate. And I remember the one day I was taking the dog for a walk with the beautiful Melanie, and I said to her, what do you think of this idea of taking the kids out of school, maybe next year, say 2-3 months, and going to Central Australia and going up to Darwin and Kakadu, Arnhem Land and that, and the sort of idea sort of germinated for a while, and that was kind of the start of it. It was really his encouragement that really helped.
Right. So you did that with the Territory.
Yeah, well, see, the problem was with that Ford Territory, the 2004 one, the first one, the lease was starting to run out. And so I thought, what are we going to do? Now, where I worked at that time, in 2008, VCAA, because it's a government place, if you were to lease a car, it had to be an Australian-made car. Now, the only Australian-made sort of decent SUV tow car sort of thing was the Ford Territory. So put in an order, 2008 Territory TS all-wheel drive, and I was actually able to order it with all the fruit. It had, you know, the leather seats. It wasn't the gear, but it had everything the gear had, and then some more. Okay, so you got the new car, but so you took the old Caravan, the old Jayco. Now, we knew the old van would not make it. It was like over 30 years old by that point, so it had run its course. As I said, we sold it after that period for $6,000, and we ended up buying another Jayco Swan, but a later one, a newer one, a 1999 model. And it had been a demo model in the showroom, so it had a lot of extras. It had like an awning as well as the annex with all the sides. It had, I think it had 2 water tanks, it had 2 gas bottles, it had jerry can holders, it had all the bits and pieces that were sort of options. And so we got that at a really good price, and it was the off-road model, so it had a heavier chassis, bigger brakes, a little bit more robust. It was a little bit higher, better clearance, things like that, yeah. And so what did that 2008 trip look like? Like, where did you go? How was it set up? It was a fair, what, 3 months, yeah? Oh, mate, it was incredible. So we did a lot of planning, and we had a rough itinerary, and we had a time frame, obviously. We got approval to take the kids out of school. So we basically went Melbourne, Renmark, Flinders Ranges, then we went up to the Oodnadatta, we went to Lake Eyre, Cooper Pedy, then up to the centre, and then all the way up to Darwin, Devil's Marbles, all that sort of stuff, through Litchfield National Park, into Kakadu, Jim, Ubia Rock, and then down, then across the Savannah Way, through Borroloola, all the way to Cairns, and then we went up to Cape Trib, and then we came down the east coast. The kind of carrot at the end of the trip for the kids was going to all the theme parks. You know, you've got to do that. So the theme parks, we also did Fraser Island on that, and that was a bit of an interesting event. And then yeah, back home. And so, how did you like the Territory as such, as a vehicle? Mate, the Territory's a great car. A lot of power, good tow car. The problem we had with it was that you've got very limited clearance. Even though it's an SUV, limited clearance. You can put a lift in it, but only about 1.5 inches. And even though it's got all the smarts, you know, the traction control and the hill descent and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't have low range. So you're still limited. 1, clearance. 2, you don't have low range, a transfer case. All right. So when did you get, into real 4-wheel driving? What was the genesis of that? Yeah, so we decided that we weren't going to lease cars anymore. There's pros and cons, advantages, tax-wise and all that sort of stuff. But what we decided to do is we actually sold that Territory at a profit, and I started looking around for a 4-wheel drive. And as a smart man does, you look for a Toyota. And so I was up the road here looking at a Prado that had come into a used car dealer there. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see this flatbed coming, and it's got this beautiful burgundy, shiny, mint GU Patrol, right? So that's where the smartness sort of fell away from me, and ended up looking at it and thought, right, this is pretty good, reasonable price. I think we paid $15 for it or something. Put it on the road. It was the 4.5 petrol on gas, and so you'd think it was, had a little bit of grunt, and we started doing a few trips with the new Caravan, and that we were able to go like Cathedral Ranges, Beechworth, El Dorado, places like that. I even managed to get Dad to come up for a trip at one point, and we stayed in that Beechworth area, and that was one of Dad's first experiences with proper sort of low range 4-wheel driving. Seriously, your dad? How'd that turn out? We came up to a bit of a hill, and quite steep, gravel, rutted, and my dad sort of goes, well, yeah, that's the end of that, son. And I said, yeah, nah,
and I put in neutral, put in low range, put in drive, and we just started walking up this hill. And it was probably 300-400 metres or so, maybe half a K up to the top of this lookout. And the thing just, we just ambled, boop, 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 and just didn't lose traction at all. And Dad was just astounded. He sort of said, "I never would have thought a car could do that." He was quite amazed with it, and probably a bit of bravado from me, but I knew the car could do it. But it was kind of impressive to show something new like that. Right now, around that time, from memory, someone told me you actually bought a camper trailer, like one of those, yeah. What was that? What was that about? Crap, yes. That was an epic fail. So we still had the Jayco, but I sort of somehow talked Melanie into going to the caravan camping show, and I was kind of keen on something, that we could take a little bit more remote, something a little bit more rugged than the Swan. And we go to the show on the Saturday, and we see this. They used to be called GIC. Now they're Black Series or something like that. I can't remember the company. And saw this camper trailer there on display, and huge annex, and it had bells and whistles and stuff. Retail for about 12 grand, and we were sort of looking at it and we're pretty keen. And the guy who kind of was the ops manager, whatever, was there doing sales. I can't remember his name. Robson, his name was, and he was actually on one of the TV shows, the 4-wheel drive action guys, and we talked him down to 6 grand. So he said, all right, well, and their showrooms were up in Sydney, and so he said, righto, well, you can have it for 6 grand, but you've got to pick it up tomorrow. We're not taking it back to Sydney. And I said, no worries at all. And so Sunday we sort of get there. It took a little while, but anyway, so we picked this thing up. It's fantastic. I did a couple of things to it. Put a stone guard, fabricated a stone guard for it, put a 12-volt pump and battery into it, and just a few little schmick things like that. And then the first trip we actually went out to Beechworth, El Dorado. We knew that area, and we drive up there and pitch it up. No worries, beautiful spot, river, grass, blah blah blah. Had a little fire going. Mel's inside reading a magazine or doing a puzzle or something. I'm mooching around, and Hannah's outside sitting by a fire, and she runs in. She goes, "Oh my God, you won't believe what I've just seen." And Melanie just sort of looked at her and said, "You didn't?" And I'm just like, "Oh no." Sure enough, she'd seen a black snake, so going between a couple of rocks. Now, that is Mel's nemesis. She does not do snakes, hates snakes. And literally half an hour later, we were packed up and we were on our way into Beechworth to the caravan park there, the commercial caravan park. I know there's not much logic there, but anyway, that's kind of how it went. And the following day we were at Lake Eildon at the caravan park there. Absolutely poured down rain. The thing with that, it was a soft floor camper trailer, so where the kids slept, it was on a vinyl floor. Because it hadn't been seasoned yet, there was leakage into it as well. So unfortunately, I think Lachlan and Nicholas had their, you remember you used to get the little iPods, the little music things, on the floor, naturally drowned in water. So it really was a schmozzle. So we ended up packing up, and we came home. Melanie said, "No, we've got to get rid of it now." Fortunately, because we'd got it cheap, I was able to sell it for 8 grand. I think we paid 6 for it. I probably put $1 grand into it, so we made a little bit of a profit. But it wasn't the best experience. But anyway, there you are. Epic fail. So the Patrol, okay. I mean, they're a reasonable sort of vehicle. What was your overall impression? How did the Patrol go, the LGU? Yeah, well, to be honest, not great. The Patrol, 4.5 litre on gas, not much guts at all. And problems started fairly quickly. So the first thing we noticed that it was bottoming out. So you can literally feel the bump stops. And so I took it back to the dealership where we got it, just up the road here, and they took it in and they went to the Pedders store and they put some new shockers in it. Great. Didn't fix the problem though, because the shockers only do one thing, the springs do the rest of it. So they wouldn't come to the party. But anyway, fortunately for me, springs are fairly cheap. So I think it was $180 each, so $300-400 new springs on the back. Then the LP gas condenser went, or whatever they call it, converter or something, that went. So there's a couple of grand there. Then the air conditioning compressor went, so there was like another $800-900 or something. And the mechanic said to me, mate, this car is not great. It's a bit of a lemon. He said, look, the head looks like it's got a bit of a leak in it. We're going to have to do something about this. I'd suggest you dump it. So we tidied it up, and I went to used to be a dealership up on the Nepean Highway, sort of high at Brighton area, called Fine Choice Autos, and they specialised in second-hand four-wheel drives, and I lobbed up there. So this was a 2001 Patrol, GU Patrol, with, I think it had 180,000 Ks on it, so low Ks, for what it was. I found a 1998 100 series petrol with 270,000 Ks, like 100,000 Ks more, 3 year older. I took it to my mechanic, and because he'd said, if you want me to keep servicing your cars, mate, bring it to me before you buy it. Fair enough. Anyway, they put it up on the hoist. The salesman came with me, put it up on the hoist, and Billy said, you know what, I can't fault it. It's got high Ks, but it's in good nick, no dramas, should be okay. So we'd had the Patrol for about 3 to 6 months. We bought it for 15. We spent about another 10 on it, and then traded it in on this on this Land Cruiser. It was stock, but I think it was the right decision.
So did you have to do anything to it, or was it just stock?
Yeah, no. So it was stock. It had an aluminium bull bar on it, and I think a couple of roof racks. So the first things we had to do, tyres had to be done. So I got a set of Mickey Thompson's UHF roof racks. Then I ended up getting a bull bar for it, second-hand bull bar, ARB, and I think I paid $600 for this second-hand ARB bull bar. Put a winch in it, spotlights, all that sort of stuff.
But still just the petrol, so that the Patrol was a petrol 4.5 on gas, and so this one was also 4.5 on gas. What was the difference?
Yeah, so they're rock solid, but they're thirsty. So I think when we did the trip with the Territory, we got about 19 litres to 100 kilometres. The towing with that was towing, and then with the Land Cruiser, it was around 30 litres, so about 10-12 litres more per 100 kilometres. But rock solid, mate. They will do 100 kilometres an hour with a trailer on a flat ground all day long, not complaining. It'll hit the gravel, do the same thing, 80 Ks on the gravel, sand, a bit of rock climbing, happy days. Really, really serviceable, really good car. Really loved it.
All right, that's a great sort of sequence of getting us to that spot where you had the taste there. So, but let's move on in terms of let's call it your coming of age. Let's move on to your coming of age with four-wheel driving and your should we say media presence, eh? How'd that start?
Media presence. So the first time that sort of stuff happened was actually, and you remember because you were there. They used to have four-wheel drive TV. Simon Christie, that dude, bald guy, and he used to advertise for people to be on the show, and what's it called, show your rig or something like that. And so I put in a expression of interest to be on the show, and then I got a reply saying, yeah, come along this date. My cousin James and his kids came along, my crew on, and so we went up around Tulangi somewhere, and they sort of went through the rigmarole, got a whole heap of sort of ARB kit, jacket and all sorts of stuff, snatch strap and recovery ropes and gear and stuff. It was a pretty cool day. But yeah, at one point they were talking us through going down this pretty steep embankment for 100 metres or so, and I looked down and I just went, no, I'm not doing it.
How come?
It's, for me, I wasn't prepared to do it. I wasn't experienced enough, and despite the fact that Simon Chris is a pretty experienced guy, I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I've got to drive this car to work on Monday. And I remember my cousin James saying, it probably took more courage to say no, I'm not going to do it, than to actually do it, in front of all these people. Everyone went and did it, and they did it successfully. I remember one kid had a long wheelbase Patrol, and at one point both rear wheels were off the ground, and he was tilting that far forward. And I'm just like, no, I'm glad I didn't do it. So so that was pretty cool.
And that's it for this episode, but there'll be more to come.
If you've enjoyed it and feel the inclination, please like and share however you want to do it. And importantly, share it with anyone who you think might also like it. Or don't. I don't mind either way. I also want to take the opportunity to thank my sponsors. Mel's been instrumental in planning most of our trips, and let's face it, it takes a lot of effort to take my harebrained half-hatched plans and turn them into these epic adventures we've had. Hannah, while not a financial sponsor, also gives me inspiration with her adventurous spirit and willingness to come swagging and roughing it. Family and friends mean everything to us, and without them, seriously, it'd be bloody boring. So thanks to everyone who plays a part in these adventures. Catch ya!